Hey everyone! If you enjoyed this video, the full version is available on Patreon. I'll be uploading all my content there going forward.
Chapter 1. April, the 27th year of Hongwu's reign in the Ming Dynasty. Yingtian Mansion, Fengtian Hall, an imperial study room. Zhu Yuanzhang looked at the memorial in his hand about the many deviant, weird, and illegal behaviors of impeaching King Zhu, Zhu Kai, and rubbed his head with a headache. This bastard, according to the report, has been living in the inner courtyard of a deep house for some unknown reason recently. He is behaving strangely and abnormally, and his face is pale. Now he is unable to show himself to others. He always wears a mask when going out. It seems that he has indulged in too much. Yun Qi, the eunuch on the side, said with a bitter face. Yes. It is said that there is a rumor that has been circulating in Ganzhou for a long time. His Highness suffered from lilac disease and bayberry sores because he stayed in a brothel, so that his face was covered with sores and he was disgraceful. It is said that he was still so proud of himself that he spent all his time in debauchery and sensuality. Now he is so weak that he cannot even see much light. At that time, everyone said he was possessed by evil spirits. Possessed by an evil spirit. There are even outrageous rumors that His Highness actually eats hair and drinks blood. It's a goblin in the form of a bat. Fart? Shit. Hearing this, Zhu Yuanzhang slapped the desk hard. Yun Qi was so frightened that he knelt down and trembled. What's evil is all just farts. Whoever dares to confuse the public with evil words and slander our son will be severely punished. And this bastard, his true colors were revealed so quickly, and he finally got better, which makes us so angry. What kind of rumors are these? Sooner or later, he will destroy his body. Does he really want to make us angry to death before he is willing to do it? Is this just a small amount of potential? He also shoulders the heavy responsibility of border defense. How can this be a good thing now? He lamented his misfortune and scolded him with anger. Zhu Yuanzhang threw the memorial aside casually, thinking of calling him back to the capital, at least forcing him to see the light of day, so that he would not look sick at such a young age. Looks like this. He, a great leader, would never allow such a weak and absurd son. To deduce future system binding, please select the target to deduce, at this time. A translucent reminder appeared in front of Zhu Yuanzhang's eyes. This startled Lao Zhu, and he was stunned for a long time before he hesitated and reached out to touch. However, he never touched any object, just like air. Yun Kai, get down first. Have you ever seen what exists before me? Zhu Yuanzhang was surprised. He lowered his eyebrows and asked Yun Qi, the eunuch manager nearby. Your Majesty, this old slave didn't see anything. Cold sweat broke out on Yun Kai's forehead, and he couldn't figure out what Lao Zhu was thinking at this moment. That's all, you go down first. Lao Zhu felt something in his heart. It was obvious that only he could see this existence in front of him, and others could not. Yes, the old slave resigns. After leaving the imperial study room, Yun Qi breathed a heavy sigh of relief, and the clothes on his back were already soaked with cold sweat. I have to say that accompanying a king is like accompanying a tiger, especially His Majesty Hongwu, who has an unstable temperament and is very bloodthirsty. Zhu Yuanzhang, who was sitting in the hall, tentatively clicked on the word deduction, and soon another prompt appeared. The host can deduce the future and life of the royal heirs to deduce the future national destiny and development process of the Ming Dynasty. There are currently no candidates to be opened. Hosts please insist on signing in, so stay tuned. Currently signing in on the first day. Seeing this, Zhu Yuanzhang raised his brows slightly. He was looking forward to it now. For a moment, the first person who wanted to deduce the future emerged in his mind. That was the Crown Prince Zhu Biao, whom he was most proud of and who had spent decades cultivating him. How would he accomplish much after he ascends the throne? After all, Crown Prince Zhu Biao was the one he cultivated most carefully from childhood to adulthood and devoted the most effort and energy. The father-son relationship between him and him is unmatched by other princes. It is no exaggeration to say that he is seriously biased. However, in addition to Prince Zhu Biao, among the many remaining princes of Zhu Yuanzhang, there is another anomaly, and that is Prince Zhu Kai, who was granted the title of Kaifeng Mansion. In the 23rd year of Hongwu, Zhu Yuanzhang considered that the important northern town needed a prince to pacify the place, so he changed the title of Zhu Lai, who was originally King Su, to King Su, and established Ganzhou as a vassal. However, due to the rush, the palace of King Su of Ganzhou had not yet been completed, so Zhu Kai temporarily lived in Pingliang Mansion for 2 years. It was not until the 24th year of Hongwu that the 19-year-old Zhu Kai officially took over Ganzhou and became the vassal of Ganzhou on the 9th day of the Ming Dynasty. One of the kings of Dai. Ganzhou is close to the western region and is surrounded by the sphere of influence of the northern Yuan dynasty. Zhu Lai, who was once a vassal, often worried about his safety and wanted to move inland to a wealthy land, so he appealed to Tasia for mercy. When Tasia received the news, he was very angry. He thought that his son was timid and afraid of getting into trouble, so he didn't say anything and just gave Zhu Kai a knife. Seeing that his father had sent him a sword, Zhu Gai understood what Tasia meant: either use the sword to kill the enemy, or else he can take matters into his own hands. He had no choice but to never mention the transfer of the feudal vassal again. However, who would have thought that the seemingly cowardly child in the past would bring Zhu Yuanzhang a huge surprise in the future? Chapter 2. In the past 3 years, Zhu Kai can be said to have made Zhu Yuanzhang admire him with admiration, but also angered him. He has always had high hopes for this son, and it can be said that he is second only to Prince Zhu Biao in his attention. Because Zhu Kai was in Ganzhou in the northwest, he could be said to be the pillar of the empire's arm. In addition to his outstanding military abilities and skills, he once led his troops to defeat several plundering and intrusions from the North Yuan dynasty to the south. He even went deep into Mobei and defeated the royal court of the North Yuan dynasty to escape many times. It's just that we haven't wiped them all out yet. In addition, he also led his troops to successfully recapture Hami and opened up the Hexi corridor. Since then, the Hami Guard has been established. But before that, Zhu Kai was just a drunken prince. He didn't take an official job well, and he didn't know how to cherish his body. He lay high in the official residence all day long, never leaving the door or taking a step forward. The greatest pleasure is drinking and feasting, constantly marrying little wives and drinking and having fun among the women of concubines and maids every day. Because of this incident, Zhu Yuanzhang felt very sad for him and hated iron for not being able to become steel. He reprimanded and punished him countless times. However, every time he was scolded, Zhu Kai had a heartbroken and repentant attitude, but it went in one ear and out the other. But what made Zhu Yuanzhang helpless was that he refused to change despite repeated admonitions, and instead continued to go his own way, living and drinking. Of course, Zhu Kai is by no means without any merits. That is, this boy has some military talents. He may not be a general, but he can also be called a handsome man. Zhu Yuanzhang still had a glimmer of hope in him and asked him to go to the northwest border town to become a vassal. At the same time, in order to take care of Zhu Lai, Zhu Yuanzhang also ordered Chongqing Hogang Bingwen to go to Ganzhou to assist King Su in garrison. He also told Zhu Kai not to act rashly if there was enemy situation, and to discuss with the Marquis of Chongqing before making a decision. At the same time, the guard strength of Prince Su's mansion was increased to 5 guards, more than 50,000 people. The military strength of Prince Su's commander can be ranked among the top 3 among the kings. For this humble 14th son, Zhu Yuanzhang actually fulfilled his father's responsibilities. You know, before King Su and King Qing, who named the country Ningxia, had not yet established the vassal state, the pressure to resist and defend the Biwen and Orum Mongolian tribes was basically on the heads of King Qin and other vassal kings. Fortunately, after Zhu Lai took control of Ganzhou, he still lived up to Zhu Yuanzhang's expectations and made some achievements. In just a few years, Zhu Yuanzhang was impressed by Zhu Yuanzhang's great achievements and made other vassal kings feel ashamed. At the same time, many noble generals in the court felt a little threatened, which might affect to their position. Of course, more participation in impeachment comes from the civil service group. Over the years, Zhu Yuanzhang has also felt numb about this, and has been trying to excuse him and wipe his butt. Treason, treason! What a bunch of bastards! The original memorial about Su Wangzhu Xi made Zhu Yuanzhang very angry, but the next memorial made Zhu Yuanzhang furious on the spot. This was a memorial to impeach Qin Wangzhu Xi for committing many evil deeds in the fiefdom, which caused boiling public resentment. To say that Su Wangzhu Xi was impeached, it was only a matter of impeaching his personal style, and it had not risen to the level of causing trouble. But this Qin Wangzhu Xi was different, this bastard, this was to provoke civil uprising. Father, please calm down. What is this that makes you so angry? At this moment, Crown Prince Zhu Biao, who had just walked to the door of the imperial study, heard Zhu Yuanzhang's angry scolding. His expression immediately changed, and he hurried in and asked with concern. Look, what ridiculous things did this man do in the feudal country? Zhu Yuanzhang said and threw the memorial directly in front of Zhu Biao. As soon as Zhu Biao saw that it was about the memorial about Qin King Zhu Ping, his heart suddenly sank and he hurriedly picked up the memorial from the ground. After reading the content of the memorial, Zhu Biao's expression changed. It also became extremely ugly. Zhu Ping ordered the soldiers and civilians in the past to buy gold and silver for many years in the fiefdom. The soldiers and civilians were so embarrassed that they sold their sons and daughters. However, Zhu Ping ordered more than 300 people who came to the palace to beg for mercy to be beaten on the spot. Killed an old man and captured nearly 100 people. Zhu Yuanzhang tried every means to settle and care for the people of the 18 tribes of Tufan. When Zhu Ping went on an expedition, he captured the pregnant women and separated them. Zhu Ping went to Xifen and captured them. 150 young girls were taken away, and 155 young boys were castrated. Many of the castrated boys died due to poor recovery. Zhu Ping carried out extensive construction work in the palace and ordered the soldiers and civilians to build pavilions and ponds in the palace. For fun, he and his second concubine Deng tortured the palace people for fun. Thinking of these, Zhu Yuanzhang couldn't help but angrily denounced ignorant of human affairs, stupid as an animal. All the above are too numerous to mention, it can be said that he is full of evil. Father, it is not yet certain whether what is said in this memorial is true. Urchin suggested that it would be better to go to Xian in advance to investigate clearly. Chapter 3. Zhu Biao looked at Zhu Yuanzhang's angry expression and hurriedly suggested. He was basically certain in his mind that Zhu Ping's behavior in Xian must have aroused public outrage. Otherwise, which censor would dare to slander the feudal king like this? What's more, Zhu Ping is also the Zongrenling of the Zongren mansion, in charge of the affairs of the royal family, and has a prominent position. The reason why he proposed this was that he hoped to go to the northwest as soon as possible to investigate the actual situation. Only by understanding Zhu Ping's behavior could he plead for mercy in front of his father for his troubled brother. Originally, Zhu Yuanzhang intended to move the capital to Xian and planned to send Zhu Biao to investigate. But now the situation is urgent and he has to travel in advance. I will definitely go to Xian, but this kid Zhu Xi must be recalled first. Zhu Yuanzhang said with a gloomy look. He was worried about letting Zhu Ping stay in Xian. Your Highness, are you going to go to Xian to investigate in person? Yes, Father, I will personally go to Xian Mansion to investigate. Zhu Biao replied respectfully. He knew that this matter was of great importance and he had to go to investigate in person to appease his father's anger. At the same time, he also hoped to take the opportunity to persuade his younger brother Zhu Ping to restrain his behavior. Okay, you go. Be sure to find out the truth. Zhu Yuanzhang said with a slightly calmer expression. He believed that the prince could find out the truth and handle the matter well. Yes, father. Zhu Biao resigned in response. He knew that he had a heavy responsibility and must set off to Xian Mansion as soon as possible to find out the truth. At the same time, he also hoped to take the opportunity to advise his younger brother Zhu Ping to restrain his behavior so as not to make his father angry again. At the same time, in Ganzhou, in Prince Zhu's mansion, a young man in gorgeous brocade robes was sitting on the bed. His pupils were as red as blood, like two bright and enchanting rubies. His thin figure looked sickly as if he had not been exposed to sunlight for a long time, and his skin was so pale that it was almost transparent. The expression on his face was distorted with excitement, and he was obviously very excited. No matter from which angle you look at it, he doesn't look like a normal person. This is real, I really become the perfect ultimate creature. I am the Ghost King. The sickly young man Zhu Kai widened his bright red eyes and stared at his hands. He clenched his fists hard and felt the power coming from his fingertips. He was so excited that he could hardly control himself. He really, back to normal. In the past few years, he has been unable to walk freely in the sun and can only avoid the light. The thirst for blood tortured him all the time, thus attracting countless rumors and strange looks. However, he never took it to heart. Because of his persistence, just for today, he finally returned to normal. He clenched his fists and truly felt the existence of that power. This was the almost perfect power of the Ghost King. Ha! I, Zhu Mei, have finally become the invincible Ghost King. I am no longer afraid of the sun, and I no longer need to drink human blood. His whole body was filled with power, and the corners of Zhu Mei's mouth raised, forming an exaggerated arc. Not long ago, he traveled into the body of Ganzhou King Zhu Kai. Suddenly, a system voice rang in his mind and presented him with a system gift package, which was a treasure trove containing everything. The most critical and important thing among them is actually a random anime character template from all over the world. This template comes from the final boss in Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, Onimusha Muzan, the infamous scum boss. Because he carries the memories of his previous life, Zhu Kai is fully aware of the evil deeds of Wu Mei in the Ghost Dance Society. This guy is notoriously greedy for life and afraid of death, and his evil deeds are simply too numerous to describe. Countless fans hope that Ghost Dance Club can bask in the sun, drink tea, and get scraped like normal people, but none of this mattered to him. At this moment, Zhu Kai was filled with excitement because he had all the abilities of Ghost Dance Society. However, the system told him at the beginning of his awakening that the power of the Xian Higanbana was continuously loading. Only when it is fully loaded can he resolve all of Muzan's flaws, and his Ghost King abilities will also be somewhat limited. This wait is a long 3 years. Just as the power of the Xian Higanbana was about to be loaded, his symptoms became more and more serious, and he could hardly suppress the urge to suck blood, and he might go on a killing spree at any time. Once discovered by the world, he will fall into a situation beyond redemption. Blood curse, blood ghost spell. After venting his emotions, Zhu Kai began to feel his reborn body. What he obtained was the template of Muzan's peak period in the Ghost Dance Society, and he directly obtained all his power. If we want to say Muzan's most terrifying ability, it is undoubtedly the blood curse. This can be said to be the root of all tragedies in the entire plot of Demon Slayer. Kimetsu no Yaiba. That is, ghosts. The ghosts in Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba are different from each other in a general sense. The ghosts are different. These ghosts feed on human flesh and blood, are immortal, and powerful ghosts can also possess powers such as blood ghost magic. The ancestor of ghosts is none other than Kibutsuji Muzan. Because of the blood curse, humans can be transformed into ghosts. By giving their own blood to the other person, they will also start to become ghosts. Chapter 4. Whether the power of becoming a ghost is strong or not depends not only on the physical constitution of the ghost before death, but also on the amount of blood given by Wu Kai. Of course, ghosts can also become stronger by eating. But their qualifications determine their upper limit. When this upper limit is reached, no matter how much you eat, it cannot be improved. In this case, my time has finally arrived. The corners of Zhu Mei's mouth rose again, with a hint of coldness. He seemed to have remembered something, and his red eyes flashed with an icy cold light. Immediately, with the thought, he instantly transformed into an ordinary person. His eyes became those of an ordinary person, his complexion was fair and rosy, and he was very healthy. This was Wu Mei's unparalleled ability, perfect mimicry. It was time to see the light. When he walked outside, it happened to be Chongqing Marquis Gang Bingwen came towards him and wanted to report military affairs to him. However, when he was caught off guard and blocked by a person, he looked up and saw a smiling, heroic and noble young master looking at him. Gang Bingwen was stunned on the spot, because he didn't recognize the person in front of him for a while, he only felt a little strange. After all, it was really impossible to show Zhu La's strange appearance to others, so he always followed the example of Lanling King Gao Chonggong to hide his face. It had been several years since he met people in person. It wasn't until a moment later that he realized something in his heart, and his pupils suddenly shrank. In an instant, he knelt on the ground and saluted, with a trace of ecstasy in his eyes. Subordinates, please see His Highness King Su. No need to be polite, Marquis Chongqing invites you up quickly. Zhu Kai personally helped him up and waved his hand. I happen to have something important to do with Marquis Chongqing. Let's go into the hall to discuss the matter. The two sat down at the host and guest seats. After the maid served tea, Zhu Mei said calmly while sipping the tea, His Royal Highness has been suffering from a strange illness in the past few years. Previously, he only looked sick. It's really hard to show off, so I keep a very low profile, making everyone unaware of my true face. Now that the treatment is finally complete, unexpectedly, the rumors have become more and more intense during this period. It seems that I really can't suppress it if I don't come forward. But I also guessed the same. Since His Highness has recovered from his illness, it is a blessing. Gang Bingwen smiled and said, as for those rumors about evil spirits and flower or willow disease, my subordinates also find them ridiculous. They have arrested and punished many good people who spread rumors and caused trouble to rectify this unhealthy trend that shakes people's hearts. But now that His Highness can come forward, all the rumors have been put to rest. In today's overall situation in the Northwest, His Highness's status is very important. Nothing can go wrong. Having said that, His Highness has received a report. The old man is planning to seal Lao Shiliu to Ningxia Mansion in order to guard the old place of Xingqing Mansion and divide the king's military power. For some reason, when Zhu Kai traveled through time, he discovered that the timeline of this plane seemed to deviate from the history of the Ming Dynasty in his previous life. For example, Zhu Biao, who was supposed to die in the 25th year of Hongwu, was postponed to this year. Another example is himself, that is, the time when Su Wang Zhu Lai became a vassal, and the time when Qing Wang Zhu Lian became a vassal. Originally, King Qing planned to vassal Ningxia in the 26th year of Hongwu, but it was postponed to this year. He was vassal in Ganzhou, is located in the northwest border of Xi'an Prefecture, the fiefdom of Qin King Zhu Xi, and his fiefdom is deep into the hinterland of the Hexi corridor, like a needle that fixes the sea. Now that Qing Wang Zhu Xi has conquered Ningxia Prefecture, I am afraid that the military power in Zhu Xi's hands it will definitely be diluted gradually. This is the so-called principle of checks and balances to prevent yourself from being self-reliant in the future, so that someone can restrain one or two to avoid threatening future generations of power. Is Your Highness worried that Your Majesty is hiding behind the scenes? Gang Bingwen asked with a frown. He is the majestic Emperor Hongwu, the founder of the Ming Dynasty. In his eyes, except for the Crown Prince, who is also His Royal Highness's eldest brother Zhu Biao, it is difficult for him to treat dozens of his princes equally. The shallow relationship between father and son is naturally no match for the righteousness of the monarch and his ministers. I have already expected this. Zhu Gai couldn't help but sigh with emotion. However, even though Zhu Yuanzhang could not treat his sons with equal care, after all, for outsiders, he still tried his best to take care of them, even to the extent of double standards. For example, the vassal king is here. The crimes in the fiefdom were so heinous and wanton, it was impossible for Zhu Yuanzhang to really kill his relatives in a righteous way. In the long history, Zhu Ping's behavior is shocking. Chapter 5. Although Zhu Yuanzhang did not make it clear how he wanted to deal with him, he simply recalled him to Yingtian Mansion to reprimand him, and then let him return after taking Zhu Biao's face into consideration. However, this is all based on a premise, that is, the power of the vassal king cannot pose a threat to the court, let alone any threat to the prince or even the emperor. If the vassal king is powerful enough to directly threaten the throne, then Zhu Yuanzhang may consider annihilating his relatives for justice. He could not tolerate any vassal king threatening Zhu Biao's future accession to the throne. Maybe you're right. But as long as King Qing did not take over the vassal state, the northwest would still be dominated by King Sui and King Qin. Geng Bingwen nodded slowly, knowing that even if King Qing wanted to conquer Ningxia, he would not arrive in a short time, at least giving Zhu Fu time to react and prepare. When he heard Geng Bingwen mention King Qin, a smile flashed in Zhu Fu's eyes. His good eldest brother Zhu Biao will encounter a disaster soon. When he is recalled to Yingtian Mansion, his King Su, Zhu Hui, will be the leader in the entire northwest. Your Highness, according to your instructions, the death row prisoners have been prepared. At this time, a strong man wearing armor appeared in front of Zhu Lai and reported in an angry voice. Very good, Geng Xian, please come with me. Marquis Chong Xing, I have some important things to do. You go and summon all the civil and military officials at all levels in Ganzhou Prefecture. After I finish, I will personally come out to dispel the rumors and preside over the affairs. The big picture. Zhu Bingwen nodded with satisfaction and ordered to Geng Bingwen. This strong man's name is Geng Xian. He is Zhu Bing's right-hand man and Geng Bingwen's eldest son. And now, Geng Bingwen has been deeply impressed by Zhu Bingwen's personality charm in the past 2 years. Deeply impressed, he also became his confidant. As you command, Your Highness. Geng Bingwen resigned first. Immediately, Zhu Lai and Geng Xian came to a secret room in Prince Zhu's mansion. Zhu Lai saw dozens of prisoners who were tied up and unable to move, waiting in place. The number of people is just right, no innocent people were arrested by mistake, right? Zhu Kai glanced at the prisoners and asked Geng Xian. Please rest assured, Your Highness, how dare Geng be careless about your instructions? These people are all evildoers, and death is not a pity. Geng Qing replied firmly. You did a good job, you go down first, remember, this matter must not be leaked to the outside world. Geng Xian nodded to express satisfaction. Yes. Although Geng Xian and Geng Bingwen are still suspicious of some of Zhu Lai's unpredictable methods, they also know that the rumors outside are by no means groundless. But they will only pretend that they don't know, because even if they know about Zhu Lai's anomalies, the behavior was reported to Zhu Yuanzhang in secret, not to mention whether Zhu Yuanzhang would believe these nonsense about strange forces and gods. To say the least, did Zhu Yuanzhang trust and favor his own meritorious sons instead of these meritorious officials with different surnames? The answer is undoubtedly, so the Geng family and his son he must be very strict with his mouth, and he won't talk too much. He will just quietly be a tool of the Zhu family. Having said that, you have all committed heinous crimes, but I give you one last chance to atone for your sins. Zhu Hui stepped forward and announced loudly to the prisoners. However, after hearing this, the prisoners looked blank and looked at each other. Do people like them still have a chance to be pardoned and atone for their crimes? Now they don't listen. He said he wanted to fight? But Zhu Kai didn't explain much. He took out a fire stick and blew it, then lit a candle. Suddenly, the originally dark secret room became brighter. In an instant, the prisoners noticed that this was an extremely spacious room. Space, and the floor is actually a dark red color, and there is a faint smell of blood surrounding it. What's more, there are actually many white skeletons piled in the corner. What on earth is this place? Why are there so many bones? Is this a place where prisoners are executed secretly? All the prisoners were confused. The sight in front of them was really frightening and disturbing. What on earth does Zhu Kai want to do to them? Zhu Hui's eyes were cold, and his bright red pupils had turned into beast-like vertical pupils, which was creepy. Then, under the stunned gazes of all the prisoners, Zhu Kai, already exuding a gloomy aura, raised his left hand and pointed it at one of the prisoners. In just an instant, his palm turned into a huge twisted piece of meat. He opened his mouth full of fangs, bit the prisoner, and slowly raised it up. Ah! The prisoner screamed in pain. His fangs had penetrated deeply into his body, and blood was dripping down. The other prisoners were stunned by the scene in front of them. As the meat monster threw the prisoner out hard, he hit the wall next to him hard, a deep hole was knocked out of the wall, and he died instantly. Tick 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 tick. The sound of blood dripping to the ground was particularly clear in the dead silence of the secret room. The other prisoners seemed not having recovered from the sudden change, they stared blankly at the frightening scene in front of them. Zhu Mei frowned and looked at the little blood on himself with disgust, which was spattered by his blood. Chapter 6. At this time, the other prisoners finally woke up and looked at Zhu Kai in fear. The rumors are true, so Wang Zhu Mei, you are a monster. Others were trembling with intense fear. They pointed at Zhu Mei and exclaimed, "Monster? I'm not a monster." Zhu Mei lowered his eyelids and glanced at one of the prisoners. The meat monster whose arms turned into a piece of meat quickly attacked him. Click! This prisoner directly followed in the footsteps of the first two people. Try my complete power as the Ghost King first, and then let you achieve supreme evolution. Ta-ta! The slight footsteps are extremely clear in this silent environment. Don't want. A tall and thin prisoner raised his head. In his sight, the pale young master was getting closer and closer. Tears instantly fell from his eyes. Driven by a strong desire to survive, he feebly squeezed out these few words. I ask you. Zhu Hui walked up to him and knelt down, staring at him closely with his scarlet eyes. Do you want to live forever? Hearing Zhu Kai's words, the prisoner shook his head in horror, and tears kept flowing down, revealing the extreme fear in his heart. Zhu Kai looked at the prisoner who was so frightened that he could not say anything for a long time, and he actually grinned gloomily and strangely. He laughed. He stretched out a finger, and his nails quickly became sharp. My blood can make people evolve. Zhu Mei stretched out his hand to the tall and thin prisoner, and with a hiss, the sharp nails pierced his forehead effortlessly. The prisoner's face was distorted with pain. But what will happen if I give you a large amount of my blood? Zhu Kai withdrew his hand, stood up slowly, and looked down at the prisoner whose expression suddenly changed. The tall and thin prisoner's pupils dilated due to fear, and purple lines spread all over his body. At the same time, his body is also expanding. Your cells will collapse. Zhu Hui looked at this gruesome scene calmly and said calmly. In the end, the prisoner's body melted directly because it could not withstand the mutation of cells and turned into a puddle of flesh. Zhu Hui just looked at it indifferently. After killing 3 criminal prisoners, he felt as if he had just stepped on a few bed bugs. Then he injected blood into the remaining prisoners, but unfortunately they all died on the spot. Just as Zhu Kai shook his head to express his disappointment, thinking that none of this batch of prisoners could be of great use, he planned to change the target to some prisoners of war who had suffered a lot of blood debt next time. Perhaps the physical fitness of those prisoners of war who had experienced hundreds of battles was better than these guys. Is it better? Just as he ignored the blood and internal organs everywhere, the strong smell of blood made him cover his nose and prepare for Geng Xian to come and clean it up. Suddenly, the last prisoner fell to the ground without moving for a long time. Zhu Hui, just when he thought he was dead, his whole body suddenly began to tremble uncontrollably, and his hands and feet twitched again. At the same time, dense bloodshot eyes emerged from his eyes, making people shudder. Then, his body began to expanded violently, and in the blink of an eye, it grew into an exaggerated body with muscles all over its body. It had a green face and fangs, making it look like a living Yasha demon. The corners of Zhu La's mouth curved up slightly, and he looked at him with interest. He was writhing in pain and twitching on the ground. He was completely able to use the blood curse to create a group of creepy ghosts. 12 ghost months, when will there be an existence called Shangxian under my command? Zhu Mei glanced at him, who was starting to tremble crazily, and left the secret room with carefree steps without looking back. But soon, the candle light went out, and in the darkness of the secret room, a pair of blood-red beast vertical pupils suddenly opened, full of violent and wild pupils. As soon as he left the secret room, Zhu Kai's footsteps paused, but then returned to normal. Ah, he actually managed to survive. It seemed that there was indeed someone with good qualifications among this batch of prisoners. A slight smile appeared on Zhu Mei's pale face. He sensed that the first ghost he created since his rebirth was born in the secret room. Why do you say that? Because before that, he already had his own waning moon. But now they are all dormant in the dark, unknown to the world, ready to obey their own orders at any time. And they are all his own soldiers who are on the verge of death in battle, as well as some poor people who will die of cold and starvation in the freezing cold. He will give them the right to a new life. Of course, whether they can bear it depends on their own destiny. Even his ability can cure diseases and save people to a certain extent. After all, he would rather not see the sun and live without eating human food. He also has vampire skills, and he will not suffer from diseases that humans can get, and can heal himself. Of course, Zhu Kai will also respect other people's decisions. In short, it is impossible for Zhu Kai not to be able to sense the ghosts he created. Moreover, he has absolute control over his life and death, and his every move is in his mind. Chapter 7. More importantly, Zhu Kai would not worry that the ghosts he created would harm the people of the Ming Dynasty, because the folk customs in the northwest were fierce and wars were frequent. In addition to the large number of death row prisoners and prisoners of war every year, there was another most critical point. That is, in his own template, in addition to loading the power of the green flower, there is also a key rule, that is, he can set the genetic ban on ghosts at will, so that they can only target the ghosts he wants them to hunt. You can kill creatures and make yourself stronger by eating the flesh of creatures. Yes, in addition to human flesh and blood, they can also eat animal flesh and blood to make themselves stronger. Zhu Kai was pacing and thinking. The 12 ghost moons will become an important bargaining chip in his hands, and will also be the last barrier for the Hexi Corridor, the northwest border defense of the Ming Dynasty, and even the entire Ming Dynasty defense line in the future. Once King Qing surrenders, his military power may be restricted. Therefore, for Zhu Kai, the weakening of military power made the 12 ghost moons an indispensable force. Because he knew that the Crown Prince Zhu Biao would die young and cause chaos in the world. I could save him. When Zhu Biao was about to die suddenly, he gave him a small amount of blood to cause him to undergo a slight ghost transformation. It was not visible on the outside, but in fact he had fallen into a state of suspended animation that was infinitely close to death. Then the civet cat replaced the prince, concealed the truth, gave him more blood, and controlled the concentration, which greatly reduced the fatality rate of his failure to become a ghost. But from then on, his eldest brother could only spend the rest of his life in anonymity and could no longer show his face. Or you can become your own staff. For him, this can be considered a good home. In short, after Zhu Biao left, many high-ranking officials in the court were killed by Zhu Yuanzhang, the famous iron-blooded emperor, to eliminate future troubles. In a few years, Zhu Yuanzhang died and Zhu Yunwen ascended the throne and proclaimed himself emperor. Instigated by Fang Xiaoru, Huang Zikan, Qi Tai, and others, he started the mode of reducing vassal status. After that, the Battle of Jingnan raged like a storm. Zhu Di rose up in a corner of Peiping and started a 4-year war. Time flies by like a flash, and in a blink of an eye, there are only 10 years left before that fateful day. Zhu Kai knew very well that he would use these short 10 years to plan carefully and prepare for the war with all his strength. And the 12 ghost moons were clearly the trump card in his hand. This was a force that could not be underestimated. The 12 ghost moon transcends life and death, is not afraid of swords and guns, is extremely powerful, and possesses the blood ghost technique, which is enough to cause dimension-reducing blows to ordinary people. If they take to the battlefield, they will undoubtedly become the most terrifying killing machines. Mentioning this, Zhu Kai's thoughts couldn't help but drift into the distance, and his heart was filled with thoughts and worries about the princess and the prince. In the past 2 years, they have suffered a lot. He could not get close to his beloved princess, and most matters in the fief were handled and assisted by the crown prince Zhu Fanyan. The reconstruction of Ganzhou prefecture, the firing technology of red bricks, the production technology of cement, and the layout planning of the entire Ganzhou prefecture were all contributed and designed by Zhu Lai in secret. Even the various books that Chen reads on weekdays are all obtained by Zhu Kai from his own system gift package. These books contain insights and technologies that transcend the times and are nothing short of precious wealth for the Ming Dynasty. Zhu Kai does not know salt-making technology, cement technology, or precious crop planting technology, but he can buy relevant books from the system supermarket to learn. The current development achievements of Ganzhou Prefecture are inseparable from his careful layout and planning. Although Gu was the executor on the surface, he only played a supporting role. Just as Zhu Kai was lost in memories, suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, he noticed a woman in luxurious clothes arriving with a child in hand with a look of joy on her face. When she heard that her husband had finally fully recovered and could walk around, she was so excited that she burst into tears. The two clasped their hands, and the pain and regret of not being able to have close contact for 2 years flooded into their hearts, making Zhu Kai feel very guilty. The two looked at each other lovingly for a moment, and all their words turned into silent condensation. Considering that the crown prince was still present, they restrained themselves a little, and after chatting for a while, they started talking about business. Now that I am here, don't let yourself be too tired. If you can leave things to the people below, try to leave them to do it, so as not to tire yourself out. Zhu Kai has always been very reassured about Gu's ability and selfless attitude. But he also knows that Gu's health is more important. Geng Bingwen reported that she has become ill from overwork in the past 2 years, and she almost fell ill some time ago. Need to take a good rest. His words were full of care and worry for Gu. Feeling this care, Gu's face showed a happy smile. She knew that her prince had many advantages. In the past, just because of her husband is suffering from a difficult disease and cannot handle many matters personally. Therefore, she can only personally come forward to help Zhu Hui handle many trivial matters. In the future, she can still be his good wife. Chapter 8. Of course, she also has a group of smart and capable people under her command, but she, the matron, is needed to control the overall situation. Gu is a very independent woman, and she is willing to assist Zhu Kai in handling these matters. In her opinion, she didn't want to just play a role-less vase next to Zhu Mei. On major matters, she listened to Zhu Gai's opinions, but on the daily affairs of the palace, she, the princess, was able to manage them in an orderly manner without Zhu Lai's distraction. Your Highness, please rest assured that I will not overwork myself. Besides, I won't do everything myself, I will leave it to the people below to handle it. Ms. Gu smiled and nodded in agreement. Ms. Gu, who is still recovering from illness, needs to rest more and not work too hard. It's time to take medicine. Zhu Mei, on the other hand, went directly back to his study and started to deal with some government affairs. Your Highness! At this moment, a young man wearing armor appeared in the bedroom and saluted respectfully to Zhu Lai. This man's name was Geng Bingwen. He was Geng Bingwen's second son and one of Zhu Lai's confidants. How are things going? Did the Zhang family take any action? Zhu Kai held the case file in one hand and the teacup in the other, sipping the tea silently, and asked in a very casual and indifferent tone. Returning to His Highness, the wealthy gentry families including the Zhang family, Li family, and Chen family are still unwilling to hand over the land deeds of some manors in the suburbs of Baikan, saying that they have official connections in the court, so they have nothing to fear. The general thought that he could simply expropriate the land under their command and distribute it to the poor peasants. While reporting the situation, Geng Wei also gave his own suggestions for dealing with it. Because there have been too many land maladministration problems in Ganzhou and its subordinate counties in the past, he has been trying to implement land reform in the past few years. Otherwise, how can we promote corn, potatoes, and other plants, and how can we count on the local tyrants and evil gentry? The land in the suburbs of the North City is close to 1 million acres. After it is controlled by Zhu Xi, how many people can be fed and how much money can be paid? Taxes. However, Zhu Kai remained silent at this moment, still looking at the case file silently. A few days ago, according to the instructions of the princess, the general sent some gifts to several family heads, and asked the government to pay for the collection. As a result, these old immortals really didn't know how to praise, and they even asked for high prices. The lion opened his mouth. The eating appearance is extremely ugly, otherwise there is no need to discuss it. This is obviously impossible. Our finances don't support it at all. He also said that if the government forcibly levies it, the imperial censor must impeach His Highness for plundering and buying and selling by force. Seeing that Zhu Lai remained silent, Geng Qi could only continue to report. Well, letting them sell it at a low price is already promoting them. Then think of a way to solve it. In this way, if you are the first to win, you should choose the Zhang family. Give them a good shock. It doesn't matter if he's a bandit or an enemy seeking revenge. Then burn all the land deeds to the ground. Isn't it natural for the land to be taken over by the government? Report the results to me tomorrow. Only then did Zhu Kai react, but his tone was filled with displeasure, and he directly issued the order. The general will obey. Hearing this, a fierce look flashed in Gang Ping's eyes. Then, he retreated. For this group of unscrupulous guys, Zhu Lai didn't mind letting them disappear forever. If he hadn't considered the overall situation and the court's reaction, he had long since wiped out all the unscrupulous big business owners who dared to block his development plan. That night, a group of uninvited guests came to the Zhang family compound. These people were well trained and wore black masks. No one knew their identities. But they were able to sneak into the Zhang family's house quietly and kill all the Zhang families young and old in their sleep. Moreover, under Geng Gu's command, there were several ghosts under Zhu Fu's command. This opportunity to eat human flesh and blood, they will not let it go. Before leaving, they also set a fire in the courtyard. This suddenly alarmed the nearby neighbors. When a large group of ordinary people saw this scene, they did not report to the official immediately, but rushed to entering the Zhang family's granary to snatch food is a vivid interpretation of robbery. It can be said that all the things that the Zhang family could move were evacuated. It can be said that no one was left alive. It was not until the next morning that anyone went to report to the official. People from the Yamen came. When I arrived at Zheng's house, I couldn't help but take a breath when I saw the miserable scene in Zheng's house. The government officials found a total of 37 corpses in the Zheng's courtyard, including men, women, old, and children, and many of them were only alive. There were some severed limbs and arms, mutilated torsos, or solitary heads rolling on the ground, and some of the blood was even discharged. It was simply terrible. In short, most of the identities could be identified. The strange thing is that the Zhang family, it seemed that the family had been wiped out, but the head of the family was missing. Among the many corpses, the body of the head of the Zhang family was not found. However, the heads of the eldest son, the second son, and the third son of the Zhang family were hung in the yard. But the whole head was on my skin and flesh have been whipped and despised by the common people to the point that they are no longer human, and I can no longer see my facial features clearly. Chapter 9. When these government officials saw it, they almost vomited out their overnight meal. This also shows how arrogant and domineering the dandies of the Zhang family are on weekdays, making people hate them to the bone and wishing they could be crushed to pieces. On weekdays, no matter how much the common people gritted their teeth against them, they would not dare to offend them rashly. However, last night the Zhang mansion suffered a brutal massacre, leaving no one alive in the family. Without such worries, these people will naturally have nothing to fear. As for who was responsible for the murder of the Zhang family, whether the head of the Zhang family is still alive, and where he went, these questions will eventually be settled. There was absolutely no evidence or clue left at the scene. Even if it was a vendetta, there was no way to investigate it, and even a suspect could not be found. Of course, there are also some smart people who connect the Zhang family's affairs with Zhu Kai. These people are those wealthy and gentry families who, like the Zhang family, are determined not to move. If there is anyone in Ganzhou Prefecture who has the ability to wipe out the entire Zhang family overnight, it is undoubtedly Prince Zhu's prefecture. It was very easy for Zhu Kai to destroy the Zhang family, and he had an extremely reasonable motive. However, the question is who dares to assert that this matter was done by King Zhou without any evidence? They didn't even dare to investigate secretly. For a time, the entire Ganzhou prefecture was in panic. Those wealthy and gentry families were afraid that if they were not careful, their families would follow in the footsteps of the Zhang family. This is also the effect Zhu Kai tried his best to achieve, to kill the chicken to scare the monkeys. Naturally he also wants the monkeys to understand how the chicken died. At the same time, in the palace of Prince Zhu, Zhu Lai is enjoying the warm time of breakfast with his wife and children. As for the uproar and sensation caused by the Zhang family's affairs, it was just a trivial matter to him, not even as important as having a meal with his family. After enjoying breakfast, Zhu Lai accompanied Zhu Zanyan to ride a horse in the yard for a while before returning to his study. Your Highness, the matter is settled. Not long after Zhu Lai just sat down, Gang Feng appeared at the door of the bedroom again and reported respectfully. Great, what's going on with the other families? Zhu Mei wiped his mouth with a handkerchief, nodded with satisfaction and asked. I just received the news half an hour ago that the remaining families have handed over all their land deeds to the government and are willing to sell them at a low price. Geng Yu continued to report. Why bother? I really can't shed tears until I see the coffin. Zhu Mei suddenly laughed. It can be seen from the reactions of these families that they have realized that the tragedy of the Zhang family is probably inseparable from him. But as long as no clues are left, even they can roughly guess it. And there is nothing you can do about it. Don't worry, Your Highness, even if there is any evidence, it has been reduced to ashes in that fire. What's more, so many people broke into the Zhang mansion to watch the fun, or smashed it to vent their anger. The scene had already been completely destroyed. Gang! Feng said with a smile. Good. I am very satisfied with your ability in doing things. When Zhu Kai heard this, he nodded with satisfaction and said with a smile. The head of the Zhang family has been arrested and brought to justice. Does your highness want to see him? Gang. Wei changed the subject and asked. Except for the head of the Zhang family, everyone else was killed last night, and the head of the Zhang family was directly imprisoned by Geng Wei and was not brought to Zhu Mei until now. Bring it with you. Zhu Lai ordered without raising his head. Not long after, the head of the Zhang family who was tied up was taken to the study room under the escort of 2 personal guards and was forced to kneel in front of Zhu Lai. Master Zhang, you were so stubborn before, did you ever think that you would end up like this? Zhu Mei crossed his legs on the table and focused his eyes on the books in his hands. He never looked at the head of the Zhang family and asked casually. Zhu Hui. As the king of the imperial court, you are so careless about human life. Aren't you afraid that someone will come to Beijing to report your misdeeds? Even if my Zhang family is destroyed, even if all my Zhang family members die, there are also families like the Li family and the Chen family. They will definitely expose your wanton behavior of preying on the common people in Ganzhou Prefecture. If you have the ability, kill us all and silence us. The head of the Zhang family's eyes were splitting at the moment. He looked at Zhu Mei with resentment, and said with grief and indignation. Want to sue this king? Do you still have a chance to sue me? Among those censors and officials, who doesn't want to impeach me? Even if you want to file a complaint, you still have to queue up. What's more, do you think the Li family or the Chen family really have the guts to sue this king? Zhu Kai sneered when he heard this. Even if he is full of evil, he is still Zhu Yuanzhang's biological son after all. Do you really think that Lao Zhu will kill his relatives out of justice? Even if someone dares to sue him, at most they will only get a scolding from the old man. But those who dare to sue him, the end must be very miserable. Zhu Hui. You will definitely go to hell in the future. Chapter 10. The head of the Zhang family also understands the reason. Even if he could really complain to Zhu Yuanzhang, he would be suing Zhu Yuanzhang's own son. Think about it from his perspective. If someone accuses his son in front of him, will he chop his son up? Not to mention that Zhu Yuanzhang was still the emperor, and Zhu Mei was still an important vassal king in the frontier fortress. Whether this king will go to hell, you may not have the chance to see. But I can reunite your family and go to the underworld immediately. Zhu Kai finished speaking coldly and waved his hand. Geng Gu immediately understood. He grabbed the head of the Zhang family by his hair, blocked his roaring mouth with a rag, and dragged him away. There is no doubt that the head of the Zhang family will be silent. Go to hell. After Geng Qi retired, Zhu Lai put down the book in his hand and stretched himself. For these wealthy and noble families, Zhu Lai never distinguished between their good and bad conduct. Once his interests or development plans were touched, he will do whatever it takes to make them obedient. If they don't obey, there is only a dead end. If win-win cooperation can be achieved, it is naturally the best strategy. But if not, Zhu Lai does not mind changing a group of people to conspire for big things. There are so many people who want wealth and honor in this world. A few of them are just a drop in the ocean and don't matter. What's more, Zhu Kai is not a very kind person. In order to achieve his goal, he will do anything. In Ganzhou, and even the entire Northwest, who dared to comment on what he said? Even if the king of Qin came forward, Zhu Kai didn't take it seriously at all. Although some of the wealthy and gentry families held high officials or had profound backgrounds, he did not care about the imperial officials who participated in the impeachment of him in the court. Shi Yangwen and Zhu Mei were both dismissive, let alone these little miscellaneous fish. He didn't take them seriously at all. After all, Zhu Mei was not the only one who hated these noble families, but his father, Zhu Yuanzhang, also hated them. Before getting ready to take a rest at night, Zhu Kai and Princess Gu talked about this matter on the bed and couldn't help but sigh. They are indeed all worthy of death. But there are too many wealthy families like this. It is impossible for me to eradicate them all, and we must continue to use those who should be used. The princess continued with a responsible look. Yes, let's see if the others know what they are doing and how to deal with the world, and assess the situation. Don't make it difficult for your husband. Hope so. Zhu Kai nodded slowly, his eyes becoming sharper. He knew that the remaining noble clan would soon make a wise decision. Whether they should fight to the end or admit defeat and beg for mercy depends on whether they are afraid of death and the annihilation of the clan. The effect of killing chickens to scare monkeys will definitely show up. Most people will definitely choose to side with him. After all, there are very few people who are not afraid of death in the world. His situation is different from that of Qin King Zhu Ping. With his lessons learned, his own affairs will no longer matter. So eye-catching. He has enough confidence that the old man will deal with King Qin's affairs first and has no time to take care of himself. This is also thanks to the help of this good second brother. His misbehavior diverted the old man's attention, making him in the Ganzhou's plan was implemented smoothly. After dinner in the imperial study room of Yingtianfu Palace, Zhu Yuanzhang continued his daily affairs, reviewing piles of memorials. Who can understand his hard work as an emperor? Since he borrowed Hu Weiyang, this case abolished the 1,000-year-old prime minister system, and all the power was concentrated in his hands. Although the dispute between the imperial power and the prime minister's power was resolved, all affairs, no matter how big or small, required him to personally review it. This heavy workload can be imagined, you know. As a famous diligent emperor in history, Zhu Yuanzhang's work and rest time was to go out early and come back late. He got up earlier than a chicken and went to bed later than a dog. Your Majesty, this is a secret message sent overnight by the Jin Yiwei stationed in Ganzhou. Zhang Wei, the commander of the Jin Yiwei, reported in the imperial study and handed over the secret folder he had just received. When he heard the news that it was the Jin Yiwei of Hanzhong, Zhu Yuanzhang frowned immediately. Did his 14th-year-old Zhu Lai provoke him again? What kind of trouble is this? He won't be like his second son, Zhu Xi, who is misbehaving in the fief, right? However, after he patiently read the secret book, he put it aside calmly, with no expression on his face. What the secret book said is regarding the illegal things that Zhuang Zhu Kai did in Hanzhong Mansion. Zhu Kai privately engaged in tea and horse business, which was very profitable. But Zhu Kai did not do it blatantly. If it were not for Jin Yiwei's in-depth investigation, outsiders would not know about it. Regarding this matter, Zhu Yuanzhang's attitude was complicated. As long as Zhu Yuan did not do it blatantly, he would usually choose to turn a blind eye. After all, the conditions in the northwest were difficult, bordering the western regions and Mobei, and Zhu Yuan exchanged tea for horses and cattle. The sheep are also understandable. However, if this had been done by someone else, his head would have fallen to the ground long ago. Zhu Yuanzhang gently massaged his forehead and suddenly felt an indescribable fatigue. For the sons of the vassal princes like him, he felt powerless to deal with them. He could only try his best to establish certain rules or authorize supervision to restrain them. However, it was almost impossible to ask them to truly obey the rules and abide by their own laws. He looked around and looked at these vassal kings.